Hello, thank you so much for Dr. Jose Morano and the Pan American Congress for having me here. My name is Asma Shaukat. I'll be presenting on the rising pandemic of colon cancer. So I'll talk about some of the trends in colon cancer incidence, mainly in the US, but as we know, this is going to be the trend elsewhere in the world too. I'll talk about the guidelines that we recently developed based on this evidence, and then what we can expect to see in younger individuals as the burden rises. So the story begins in 2016. In the US, our recommendations were to offer colon cancer screening for men and women 50 to 75 using any one of the following strategies, either a stool-based fecal immunochemical test, a FIT DNA test, flexible sigmoidoscopy, colonoscopy, CT colonography, or the Septin9 blood test. Then in 2018 was the first time the American Cancer Society gave qualified recommendations to lower the screening age to 45. And the reason they cited was this. In the bottom of the graph, you can see the incidence of colon cancer in men and women. And you can see over time, both the curves have been going downwards, suggesting that our screening efforts have reduced colon cancer incidence. However, in the top part of this graph is colon cancer incidence in individuals 20 to 49. And you can see that the curves have been flat, but in the last 10 years or so, there seems to be an uptrend. And this is the trend that we want to address and hopefully diminish. So these are, again, colon cancer incidence rates by 5-year increments of age. And you can see that age is the biggest risk factor for colon cancer. The risk goes up with age. However, when you start looking at the younger ages, particularly 45 to 49, they are above that threshold where we started screening 50-year-olds about 20 years ago. So that's a strong rationale for offering these younger individuals colon cancer screening. Now, one might ask, maybe we're seeing a lot of colon cancer in younger people because we're scoping them more often. They're likely to come to healthcare systems and we're likely to offer them colonoscopy. Well, this study shows that the colon cancer in younger people is not just very early stages, but it's actually cancers with regional and even distant spread. So this is cancer where perhaps if we could screen earlier, we could reduce this late stage cancer. So based on this, we updated the guidelines in 2021 for ACG. And as you can see, we gave a qualified recommendation to lower the screening age starting at age 45 to 49. The main emphasis is still age 50 and older, but we wanted to include this younger age group where we're seeing this rising incidence. And shortly thereafter, the US Preventive Services Task Force also updated its recommendations and gave screening men and women 45 and older a grade B evidence, which means that there's moderate certainty of a moderate benefit. So let's look at these, and this is covered in the US by all insurance companies, including Medicare. So let's see some of the benefits versus harms of screening earlier. The benefits are that we could reduce this rising trend of colon cancer incidence and also bring people that are 50 by starting giving them the message at 45. The downside is the harms. Colonoscopy is invasive and is associated with complications. Even in the US, we don't have access everywhere to offer people screening. The resources required from a societal perspective are very large, and we could worsen disparities where people that are well-to-do and have good insurance get access first, and we leave out the people that really, truly need the screening. So let's look at the modeling study that tells us how much benefit we can expect if we started screening earlier. So in the red box, you see the number of additional cases of colon cancer that we could prevent if we started at screening at 45 versus 50. And it's about 3 per 1,000 population. Now balance that with the harms. The additional complications, if we started screening at 45 compared to 50, are not trivial. It depends what strategy we use, but they vary from about a 0.2 per 1,000 individuals harmed to 2 per 1,000. So the balance is very, very narrow. And then the burden, how many additional colonoscopies and other tests we would end up doing if we started offering screening earlier. And you can see those are very large numbers, even for the US. So this is how many people are currently screened in the US by state. As you can see, the US is quite a mosaic of different screening rates, and some states do better than others. Overall, screening rates are 64%, meaning 2 out of 3 people over the age of 50 are up to date on screening, whereas 1/3 are not. But the screening rates vary by race. Whites have the highest screening rates, followed by African Americans, and much lower in Asians. And they also vary by geography. So New York, where I practice, screening rates are pretty high. But in South, in Texas, screening rates are much, much lower. So there's a lot of need to reduce this disparity. And then we've unleashed this tsunami of adding 21 million people in the US between the ages of 45 to 49 that are now due for screening. So how will we manage this big burden and get everybody screened? Now, the global burden of colon cancer, it's not just a problem in the United States, but it's all over the world. And by 2040, colon cancer is going to be the leading cause of cancer worldwide. And you can see from every part of the world, the rates of colon cancer are on the rise and expected to continue to rise over the next 20 years unless we do something. And this affects pretty much the Europe, Asia, as well as South America. And here are screening guidelines, just to give you a snapshot of different regions in the world. And I give you a reference of this recent review that we wrote that has a lot more detail about this. But you can see that the age to start screening varies by country and region of the world. The age to stop varies, and modality-wise, a lot of them recommend stool-based testing, which is easier to do at a population level. But you can see a lot of variation in screening rates. Next, I'm going to turn the focus a little bit to quality indicators for colonoscopy. As we screen individuals, so say they have a positive stool test and then we do a colonoscopy, it's very important that that colonoscopy be extremely high quality. And one of the indicators for quality colonoscopy we have is adenoma detection rate, which is number of colonoscopies where at least one adenoma is found, divided by the total number of endoscopies done by an endoscopist in a given time period. And the benchmark is about 25%. So the questions are that as we lower the screening age, what should we expect to see for our ADR when we start including younger populations? And how does this affect endoscopists? So this is what we know. Risk of adenoma increases with age, and ADR is a valid quality metric. And prevalence of adenoma in young people, we don't know the exact burden, and we also don't know how this will affect endoscopists' ADR. So let's look at some of the data behind it. This is a study from Poland. They did colonoscopy screening for a large number of individuals, 50,000. And you can see they compared what was found in 40 to 49 versus 50 to 66. And the rates of cancer as well as advanced polyps are lower in 40 to 49-year-olds. This is data from New Hampshire Colonoscopy Registry in the US. And there again, they compared 45 to 49-year-olds versus 50 to 54 and found comparable rates of cancer and advanced polyps. So we looked at it in a multi-center practice in Minnesota, where we included average risk colonoscopies and again, tried to look at the younger age group. And we found that adenoma detection rates for endoscopists is lower for younger patients by about 4 or 5 percentage points. In fact, we modeled that if your practice is composed of young people, say 5% of your screening population is this younger group, what do you expect your ADR to be, and how that ADR drops as younger people make up a larger chunk of your screening population. So you can see physicians can expect a lowering of their ADR as we start scoping younger patients. We also looked at this in GI Quick, which is a registry in the US with over 3,000 practices contributing their data, and it has over 2 million exams, 800 endoscopists. And there again, ADRs for 45 to 49-year-olds are about 3 to 4 percentage points lower than for older age groups. So now, in the last couple of minutes, what the future might hold for colon cancer screening. There's a big development of blood-based colon cancer screening tests. In the past, it was very hard to detect tumor signal in the blood that's shed from the polyps. Well, that technology has improved. Now we can detect cell-free DNA, as well as proteomics and metabolomic signatures. And we also have artificial intelligence and machine learning, so the algorithms get smarter over time to be able to detect colon cancer in the blood. In the US, Medicare, which pays for all these testing, has made some benchmarks. And they've said that we will accept a blood-based test for colon cancer if it meets the following 3 criteria. The sensitivity for the test for colon cancer is at least 74%, the specificity is 90%, and it's FDA approved. So there's several blood tests in the making that are in trials right now. The one that is already approved is known as septin-9. This is a blood-based test that looks for methylated septin-9 in the blood. Now, the sensitivity and specificity are a little lower than what the Medicare bar is. Therefore, most societies don't endorse it. However, newer versions of this test are likely to be much more accurate. We've just finished a very large multi-center trial where we enrolled 25,000 people across the US, and we collected blood and they underwent a colonoscopy. And now we're going to see how well this blood test performs. So more to come on this, and the results should be available by early next year. And again, just to give you a sense of how many blood-based and stool-based tests are being developed, this is a small list, but there's multiple tests. Most of them have completed recruitment, and now we're just waiting for results. So this field is rapidly going to change, and within the next few years, we'll have a blood-based test for colon cancer screening. So stay tuned. So in summary, there's a rising trend of advanced neoplasia and cancer in 45 to 49-year-olds. The prevalence rates of adenoma detection are a bit lower in this young group. So that's something we can expect as we start seeing them in our endoscopy practice. As we add this younger group to our screening pool, we need more colon cancer screening approaches. And there's some promising blood-based tests for development in this area. So the story is just beginning for colon cancer screening and what happens with these newer tests. And we'll find out more as time unfolds. Thank you very much.